welcome to the Keiwear Show, where we talk about life, love, and the pursuit of happiness. I am your host, Keisha Mayo, and we have a great show for you on today. Today, we have the beautiful Vallori Thomas. She's a life coach, she's an author, and she's the founder of the Institute at Wow Coaching and Counseling. And she's so much more, but we'll get into that as the show goes on. Welcome to the show, Vallori. Thank you so much for accepting my invitation. Please introduce yourself to my viewers.
Grand Rising, what a great day to be amazing. My name is Vallori Thomas, affectionately known as the Possibilitarian. As Keisha said, I'm an author. I'm a certified life coach, accredited member of the Forbes Coaches Council. I'm an expert at project development and professional development and organizational structure. A pleasure to be here this morning.
Well, I'm so happy that you're here. You know, I tell you, Vallori has always been special to me. I actually met her some years ago in Momentum Education back in, I believe, when was it? About 2018, Vallori? I think
17, 2017, 2018.
Yes, and I'm LT 145. Hey, for those that's out there looking at us, right? So, and Momentum Education was it was a journey of, self-discovery and, building our confidence and motivating us to stick by our goals. And I mean, Vallori used to get on me, you're going to do this and, follow your dreams. And, and I tell you, it was just a pleasure, meeting her because she has been an inspiration to me. But Vallori, for those who don't understand what a life coach is, tell us what a life coach is and what they actually do.
Okay, well, coaching, is very different today than maybe 20 years ago when I first started, right? Let's just talk about where we are today on the planet, right? Post-COVID, the issues and themes that permeate human life on the planet now in terms of mental illness, in terms of separation and racial disparity. Well, you add all these things together. And so the human condition is a demand for coaching. As well as therapy and all of the wellness modalities that make us feel good so that we can thrive and move forward. And so coaching is a unique relationship, right? A coach is not a therapist or a psychoanalyst, though. We are governed by a very particular set of ethical guidelines, competencies, and so forth. And as part of our credentialing and accreditation, we must be first and foremost very clear with our clients that we're not counselors, licensed counselors, or psychotherapists. We're not diagnosing or any of that. You may have coaches who are already in the counseling field or are licensed clinical workers and so forth, and they want to take on coaching to add to their, arsenal of services and so forth. So it makes a lot of sense, However, the coaching is a unique relationship, whereas the coach is guiding and supporting you to uncover blind spots. So that you can hit that like turbocharge in your car for your aspirations and things that you want to accomplish. Coaches are very instrumental in work-life balance, right? In creating, how should I say, opportunities through retrospection and reflection.
Right. And now, Vallori, was there anything that happened in your life that made you feel like this is the, direction you wanted to take in life? Did something happen that drove you to say, you know what, I want to help people. I want to be a life coach?
Well, I think I've been doing it since I was a kid. I remember a Sunday dinner, and my mom would do Sunday dinners. And I remember I must have been about 12 years old. And she asked us, me and my brother, I have a younger brother, and she asked us about our aspirations, who we wanted to be or what we wanted to be, developing and growing up. And I wasn't really clear, but I knew I wanted to advocate. I wanted to, support and serve people so that there really was equality. I grew up at the, how should I say, the turn point of the 60s. And so at a young age became very, aware of the separations and
Mhm.
conversations that my family were having around the table, the things
Mhm.
that were, scary and that were permeating at the time. And so I was very clear, even at a young age, that that's what I wanted to do. So listen to this. I said this to my mother, right?
Mhm.
And she took her bite and put her fork down and looked at me clear in the eye. She said, "Well, it sounds like you want to be a counselor, and that's admirable, but you
Wow.
need to be a lawyer so you can make so you can help people that way." And here I am, fast forward, years later.
Right.
It's always been something for me in terms of my awareness in my community,
Mhm.
with my family members. I've always felt a need and a calling to serve in that way.
Because that's what I was gonna ask you. What is your motivation? Because we all deal with life. We all deal with our ups and our downs. But I know since I've known you, I've always, you always had something positive to say. You always building somebody else up. So I'm like, what is it that motivates you, to really just want to seek out and be a help to others, even in the times when you don't feel like, you're strong at that moment, but you never allow anybody else to see it.
Thank you for that. And it's a commitment. And so for me, my own life journey, like in development, I was very young. I was in college at 16 back in the 70s. And
Mhm.
really like the world was in a different place and looking to, find my identity, like my belonging and so forth. And I was just a kid in a very adult forum. And
Mhm.
so I looked to be adult and made some bad
Mhm.
choices. And
Mhm.
in making them, I just spiraled.
Mhm.
I spiraled and I went silent. And I
Mhm.
got to a point where I'd lost everything. I'd let everything go. I wasn't sure how to move forward or backwards. I was
Mhm.
just stuck, suspended, right?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
what I learned is that in that time is that making no decision is still a decision.
Right. Mhm.
And so got to a place big, and we often hear the term being sick and tired, but I
Mhm.
had allowed myself to, experiment with drugs and hanging
Mhm.
out and
Mhm.
people and all these things and being with people in places I had no business at because I'm younger than everybody. Right.
Right. Mhm.
However, having a young mother and having to be responsible for my brother, my mentality was caught in between. And so I made some bad choices.
Right. And I tell you, you don't look like anything you've been through. I mean, since I met you, I just be like, oh, that's Fly Vallori right there. I mean, she just puts it together, But I know since we met in Momentum, you founded your own coaching and consulting company. What was it that made you step out on faith and start your own versus staying with Momentum?
Well, I had always had my own when I came to Momentum.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So that's how I began training.
Mm-hmm.
I had started, well, so no, let me correct that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I had started the work, but when I went through Momentum in my leadership program during my leadership, my declaration and establishment was my first company and
Mm-hmm.
name Take Higher Ground. And it was absolutely to do what um, to support women who had a journey similar to mine.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so what I would do is go into residential facilities around New York, specifically in Harlem and East Harlem and so forth. And I began to do some programming and share some practices and tools that I had learned on my journey. And then I
Mm-hmm.
started sharing it. And in sharing it, I met someone who had gone through the Momentum program, and that's how I got connected to Momentum. And then at the time, the founder, dear love of my life, Robin
Mm-hmm.
Diane Lynn, was
Mm-hmm.
leading it and saw what I was doing and took me under her wing. And that's how I began to shape my business and my career as far as coaching. I began training with Momentum first. And
Okay.
so it was always on the back burner. It was
Mhm.
always there. And the different spaces, different times, and so forth. But we all have a dream, a passion in us that, whether we believe it or not, because it's always calling us, but you're going to birth that before you leave
Right.
the planet. And
Uh-huh.
so that's exactly what happened for me.
Got you. And now, what challenges, have you faced while coaching others?
Well, the challenge, well, this is such a great question. The main challenge is that when dealing with folks who are aware of mental illness, they
Mhm.
are aware that something's off and they look to seek help. One of the big issues that I find in coaching is that when dealing with adults, right, the
Mhm.
grown people will tell you what they want you to know
Mhm.
versus the whole story.
Right.
And I preface this, with that because the stigma of mental illness permeates still to today.
Mhm.
It's part of, I think, uh, our wiring. When it comes to our cultures and our upbringing, I
Mhm.
don't know any family who hasn't been touched by mental illness in some
Right.
way, shape, or form. And in our development, it was always something that we didn't talk about.
Mhm.
Well, that
Right.
hasn't really left. People have grown up with that still to this day. So, a lot of times when folks come looking for coaches, they actually need a therapist or
Mhm.
a counselor, but because of the stigma, they'll how should I say, elect a coach first. So it's very important that a coach is trained in terms of the competencies and ethical guidelines that permeate the industry so
Mhm.
that you don't get into trouble in that way.
Right.
You follow what I'm saying?
Yes.
Because
Mhm.
we cannot diagnose. We
Right.
don't even work in the same context, right? A
Mhm.
coach works with a person, the who of a person, from the present looking to the future.
Mhm.
A therapist or psychoanalyst also works with the who of the person, but they're looking at the past. They're peeling back the onion to see
Gotcha.
how you got here in
Mhm.
order to move forward.
Right. Right.
And
Right.
you might require medication or some sort of, stabilization to help you move forward. We
Right.
do not do that. But
Mhm.
a main challenge for coaches today is the discernment
Mhm.
and to be able to screen and have the adequate training so that you stay away, because girl, that's a landmine.
Right. Because I
Mhm.
was going to ask you, what should a person look for, when they're looking for a life coach? What should they look for?
It can be as individual as the person is. Some people are looking for work life balance, and when I hear that, to me, I automatically know that it's time management. Because when we
Mhm.
talk about work life balance, it all takes place in a span of time, right? And
Mhm.
so it depends on what their individual goals are, what they're seeking. It
Mhm.
can be as different as the individual.
Got you. Okay. And, what changes have you seen, since you've been doing it? What changes have you seen in clients after working with them?
Well, so the idea of having a coach is not the same relationship as a therapist. It's not, whereas you may be lifelong friends, but I think any
Mhm.
coach worked their grain of salt is not looking for a very long-term relationship. They're looking to get you to your goal.
Got you. Mm-hmm.
and that you accomplish your goal. That's their job, to champion you getting there, right? And
Mm-hmm.
beyond that, then once your goal is met, the journey there and the tools and the lessons are the things that will keep you going as you move forward, right? So for
Mm-hmm.
me personally, I will work with a client unless it's project focused, where
Mm-hmm.
there's a year or 18 months or something like that. I will work with a client for 6 months,
Mm-hmm.
and
Okay.
and we'll go through what we like, all the areas that we need to go through, create a plan.
Mm-hmm.
Because after 6 months, if you're not generating and creating in line with what you aspire to be, there's
Mm-hmm.
something wrong, number
Right.
one. And then after 6 months, right, and you're creating, then what are we doing? We're not dating.
Right.
I need you to be productive, because that's my track record. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. I
I
hear
mean,
you.
always, because it is a very intimate relationship. There are
Mm-hmm.
things that you will share with your coach that you won't share with anyone. And
Right.
because of that, there are so many guidelines and and policies around coaching, so that
Mm-hmm.
you are certified and that you do get credentialed in a way that serves you and the planet.
Right. And now I know, Vallori, you're an accredited member of the Forbes Coaches Council, and you're also an ICF certified coach. Tell us about that. I mean, I'm not sure what, being a member of that, how does that benefit you?
Well, it's like a benefit. Well, the membership is that it gives you access, like
Okay.
any other membership,
Mm-hmm.
right? Gym membership. It
Mm-hmm.
gives you access to different levels that happen internally in the industry. I'm a member, because, first of all, because I believe in the industry. I've
Mm-hmm.
grown up through the industry, and so that I can stay on the pulse of the new policies and changes, or
Gotcha. Mm-hmm.
modalities, or different technologies that might be used. They
Right.
have chapters throughout the states and internationally, where you can meet fellow coaches in your area. So that's the thing that the membership serves, besides the visibility.
Got you. And how was that feeling when you were honored, to be the 2021 We Inspire Movement for Change ambassador?
Oh
You
my
know.
gosh. And so, listen, I just keep doing the work,
Mhm.
keep doing the work, and have been blessed with people on my journey who want to talk about it and share it as well. And so
Mhm.
that's how that happened.
Mhm.
And such a memorable experience, to be part of a movement where people are inspired by people and the human condition. See, that's where I live.
Yes. And I know you're also an author. So tell us, the name of the book, and, tell us about the book. What made you, sit down and say, you know what, I'm going to put this on paper. What inspired you to do the book? So tell us a little bit about the book.
So I had often, in sharing my story as I began to do the work and trainings and create workshops, and working with momentum, and people hearing my story, I had often been told, you need to write a book. You need to write a book. You should
Mhm.
write a book, right? And so, in thinking about how I would create my niche in the coaching industry and identify myself, I wanted to be able to articulate what my take was, why it
Mhm.
was important to me. And
Okay.
so, being affectionately known as the possibilitarian, right?
Mhm.
I came up with possibilitology.
Mhm.
And possibilitology is the name of the book. It's a
Mhm.
great day to be amazing. And it's
Mhm.
all about applying what I call PT, possibility thinking. And it is the story that I tell is actually, I pick up from being at the crossroad of hitting rock bottom.
Mhm.
And what was an epiphany for me is that the same tools and energy that I use that got me to this low place, if I
Mhm.
flipped it
Mhm.
in a
Mhm.
different perspective,
Right.
it could support me to move forward. And so there was a new possibility. And I began to act differently because, like, I had hit rock bottom. There was nowhere else to go. And I was clear that's not where I was supposed to be, nor where I desired to be. I just wouldn't make a move because I couldn't figure out how I got there.
Right. And I tell you, I was wondering because your bio is just awesome. I mean, you have done so much because even with this book, I know you're also the co-author of another book called Through It All We're Still Standing. But I want to know, with everything that you do, how do you balance family life and, everything else that you do? How do you balance it?
And so I call it soul care. This is my theme, my current theme, soul care. And it's different, separate, distinct, and apart from self care. And so in my mind, self care are all the tactical things that we do, right? The hair, the nails, the facial, the massage, those type of things, right? Soul care is what I do to feed my spirit. The thing that expands my heart, my living experience, the thing that just has me glow and flow. I began to incorporate those things. And in doing so, magically it appeared that my available time was expanding. Why? Because I had a concentrated block of time just for me. That fed me. It's like we charge our cell phones.
Yes.
That soul care, it charges me. It's something where I can be totally lost in it. And I do it regularly, and it's different things at different times. I began to meditate and spend those first few minutes of the day just in meditation or praise or worship. And it expands time for me. It allows me to set my day versus technology, because we're living in the age of technology. Listen, your phone will wake you up.
Right.
And tell you what to do.
Right.
You
And
know
I
what I'm saying?
And I know you've also trained graduate students at Harvard University. I mean, being a speaker, like for me, I've always, went through being nervous. And I mean, you just do it, Vallori. What gives you that confidence to be that, enthusiastic keynote speaker and facilitator? And, how did that opportunity come for you, to train the students at Harvard University?
Well, through work that I've done, right? I actually mentored and was a leadership coordinator for a Harvard grad, amazing woman, Professor Shahara Jackson at Harvard, and she works in the education department. And we had talked and done some work in the past and had always talked about it. And so we got an opportunity to come and do some diversity, equity, and inclusion work there with the educational staff. That was quite powerful. But the thing that gives me courage is it's the focus and the purpose that I open my mouth for. And I concentrate on that. If I think about myself or what I'm saying, beyond my content, beyond my context or intention, but if I start getting caught up in me, girl, I'm a wreck.
Right. And I know you done expanded now because you're reaching out. I mean, you done traveled to South Africa and Peru and Thailand. And I mean, you just being a blessing, not just here, but just going out and reaching out. But what do you feel has been your greatest accomplishment?
I think the greatest is yet to come. And I'm going to say that because I'm a advocate, student, and child of God. And I know He's not done with me yet. And so I don't want to put a ceiling on it.
Okay, got you.
However, I feel blessed to have traveled to third world countries and been able to have an impact in the communities there, direct impact there. I'm grateful for partnerships that I have. I work with a company here in South Carolina, Every Black Girl Inc., with a dear friend, Vivian
Mhm.
Anderson, and the work that she's doing in the
Mhm.
community with youth and the
Mhm.
families. I'm grateful for that.
Yes.
Um,
Mhm.
the partnerships that I have, and
Right.
the dear friends, and so those are the things that inspire me.
Yes.
I often work and support dear friend Sylvia High and her
Mhm.
conferences that she has every year. I Am Woman. It's a big deal, and we love
Oh,
it.
I
So
remember Miss
these are
Sylvia. Yeah.
these
Mhm.
are like accomplishments.
Right.
Um,
So what do you have planned for the future?
Well, I just started a new series of
Mhm.
workshops. I not only is Possibilitology a book, but it's a workshop as well. You can come, and I offer an intensive, a 3-day workshop a couple of times a year that takes you through the book and the tools
Mhm.
with me personally.
Well, we are almost out of time, but what I want you to do is please tell the viewers where they can get the book, how they can find out about, your life coaching business, really
Just
quick. We're
contact
gonna
me.
put it on the screen, but I want you to be able to let them know where they can find these things.
Thank you so much. And thank you for this time and this opportunity to share and talk with folks. You can find me by my name, Vallori Thomas, and it's VALLORITHOMAS. You can Google me. You can
Mhm.
www.vallorithomas.com. You can find the book Possibilitology, and We're Still Standing on Amazon. You can find it there. If you're interested in one-on-one coaching, or you want to find out some more questions about how it works, my number is public. You can find me on Facebook at Vallori Thomas, on Instagram at Wow Talk 2021. And I hope to hear from a few of you.
Yes, and we just want to say thank you so much. The time just goes so quick when you're having a good time. But thank you so much, Vallori, for coming on the show. And I just want to tell my viewers, thank you so much for joining in and tuning in. And we just encourage y'all to come back, next week for another episode of the Keiwear Show. You can follow me on all social media platforms and on the internet. The information will be on the screen for Vallori Thomas and also for myself. And remember, Keiwear is the key to knowledge. Have a blessed day.
You are always being successful. The definition of success is simply accomplishing a goal. You get out of bed doing that.
Come on now.
It's whether or not what you're accomplishing is aligned with what you're going for. Make your decision, shift your perception, and be amazing. My name is Vallori Thomas, and I'm a possibilitarian.